Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of the Mandatory Live. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, follow us on our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO, and you can also find us on the audio side. So, if you got a couple of minutes, leave a written review, give us a 5-star, because why wouldn't you? And by the way, happy Thanksgiving to everyone celebrating. It is Thanksgiving week. Black Friday, a lot of things this weekend. But before we get into, the holiday spirit, we will be talking about a turkey later on, but not the turkey that you think we're talking about. What I
Why did
mean
I
by
find that
that
so funny?
is, I guess it's supposed to be funny, but it's also a very lame joke that only a corny person like myself would make. As you know, if you watch this show, I make the corniest jokes. We will be talking about Turkey and how he purchased Ring magazine from Oscar de la Hoya. Also, we're going to get into a little bit more on Arnold Barboza, who recently won his fight, because the WBO has officially ordered a fight between Arnold Barboza Jr. and Jack Catterall. And
Hmm.
the winner could possibly, Brian, get,
Should.
yes, get Teofimo Lopez if Teofimo Lopez doesn't Teofimo Lopez, if you know what I mean. And we're going to be getting into all of that. But first, we are going to be starting off with, and before we actually get into it, leave your comments, drop them, because we're going to get into all of it. We are going to get into all of your comments. Keep the comments coming because, of course, this is an interactive show. But, Brian, I think what we have to talk about is the fact that Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda not happening. That was announced. And now there's talks that Shakur Stevenson and Kid Austin may actually be a possibility. Floyd Schofield, if not too familiar with his nickname, Kid Austin, that's a fight that apparently is in the works. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and people are going as far as to say his father is really putting out there like that this is being worked on and whatever the case may be. I think even somebody said that his father says it's done, but until it's official, like really official in this sport, we don't care. We don't care. Now, what I do care about is if this fight does happen. Now we're talking about a legitimately interesting fight, but I think Shakur Stevenson is put in a little bit of a tough spot here. The William Zepeda fight that's not happening. William Zepeda's hurt. We talked about his win over Tevin Farmer in one of our more recent shows, and Tevin Farmer probably had a pretty good case for winning that fight. Zepeda ends up getting the decision. He is injured. He's not going to be able to fight for a while. Shakur Stevenson hasn't been super active because he was recently injured. Now there's talk about him fighting in February against potentially Floyd Schofield. Sidebar: bad time for BoxRec to be undergoing maintenance right now as I try to look stuff up. But that's just great during the show live, as you can see. And I'm intrigued by this fight though, if it were to happen, because Schofield is like a young, hungry, like one of these challengers. He's been dropped already. He was dropped in his last fight, but we've seen him overcome a little bit of adversity, and he seemed primed to become a contender in his weight class. This is a little early, and I think what people are going to say is like, hey, Shakur Stevenson caught him early, and if he outboxes him, makes him look bad, then they're gonna just use it as like, hey, like when Tank fought Frank Martin, or to a much lesser degree than this, but when Floyd fought Canelo Alvarez is an example that everybody points to. Like it's gonna be looked at as one of those things if you just outbox him silly. But I mean, I'd be interested in it. I mean, wouldn't you? I think you're even higher because I'm not like I think Kid Austin's good, but you're higher on him than I am. So I do you think he could actually pull this off if they were to fight each other?
It depends because styles make fights, and I feel like I'd want to know what Shakur Stevenson and we would be going to get. Because if you're fighting Kid Austin, you're not going to want to get hit. So is that a lot of Shakur Stevenson running away and at the same time not throwing his hands enough? Because I think that's the thing with Shakur. He's so good defensively. He rarely gets touched, but he doesn't throw as much. I think this is actually a really good fight. I do still think Kid Austin very young, but I think it's entertaining. I think it might actually be a little bit more entertaining than William Zepeda because I really think Floyd could be a face of boxing. I really do. I think he could be one of those young guys that could take over the sport.
Mm, I don't know about that, especially if he fights Shakur Stevenson. I mean,
Well, that's the thing, right? It's one of those fights where it's like he's young. If he loses,
yeah.
what will that happen with his career? But at the same time, it's not like one loss changes things. I know in like this era, everyone's like, "Oh my god, you got a loss." It's like the Money Mayweather thing. Nobody
Here,
wants
here's the
nobody
thing though.
wants to not have an O.
Here's the thing though. So Eddie Hearn wants to put up reportedly a lot of money for this. Like he's out here saying like they've made a massive offer to Shakur Stevenson or whatever the case to get this done. Remember, Shakur Stevenson technically is in promotional free agency because he left Top Rank. And maybe he goes back, maybe he doesn't, whatever. But like he can kind of do what he wants now, which makes this part of it appealing. But if Shakur Stevenson just beats Kid Austin, that it's going to be like, hey, you lost to Shakur Stevenson, who a lot of people think is boring, who a lot of people are still having questions about. And if it's one of those fights where it's like 118, 110, and Shakur Stevenson just sort of like tit tats his way to a decision, and a lot of people are underwhelmed, and he boxes really well and defensively he's smart, but doesn't take a lot of chances because he feels like he doesn't need to, then yeah, I think I don't want to say you're DOA or you're screwed if you're Kid Austin because you're young, but at the same time, yeah, people are going to hold that against you. And then all of a sudden, maybe he's fighting Frank Martin a couple fights after that. And then it's like, oh, there's your crossroads bout already.
No, you know what I think? I think if that happens, it's going to be tougher for Shakur Stevenson because I don't think anyone's going to want to see a Shakur Stevenson fight if that's how it's going to go. Because I think that could be the worst thing to happen to Shakur Stevenson because what's the narrative right now? That he's a boring fighter. He's a great fighter. I actually really like Shakur Stevenson as a fighter. But there's that knock on him that he puts people to sleep. I mean, he almost put me to sleep and during one of his fights. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, he doesn't put on the most entertaining bouts. I don't need you to knock out somebody. I've never been that type of boxing fan that needs a knockout. But I think that fight will say a lot more about Shakur Stevenson because he is going to want to play it safe in that fight. Do you not think that he will?
Yes, but I mean that's just his style. He's not gonna.
He's always playing it safe. It doesn't matter who it's against.
I don't want to characterize him as like he's playing it safe for the sake of. But I mean he's a defensive fighter. He's a counter puncher. Like this is what pisses him off, or pisses a lot of people off about him. And there are times where you watch him and you feel like he can take more chances and actually stop somebody, but he's content with not doing so. And at the same time, it's like if you're interested in protecting your health, like this is what Floyd Mayweather was doing toward the end. Toward the end, I think that's the important part of this. Like Floyd Mayweather, like he was fighting differently before his first retirement than well after in the latter years of his career. And what you saw when he was at his height in terms of popularity and things of that nature, like that's what a lot of these young dudes try to emulate, is that style of Floyd, not the Floyd Mayweather who was fighting like Arturo Gatti or Diego Corrales. It's the one who was fighting, not even Miguel Cotto. It's the ones who was fighting against like, Canelo Alvarez, Andre Berto, and guys like that, for example.
Don't talk about that Andre Berto fight. Like
I like Andre Berto.
I do, but I hated that fight for Floyd. Like I hated that was his last fight. Like I don't think I needed to see it, but I get why he did it.
Yeah.
For that record.
We both felt like Shakur could have gotten Artem Haratunian out of there.
100%.
Like, we both feel like he could have did that, but he took his foot off the gas,
I think that's one of the things with Shakur is that I think we just need a statement win from him. And I think one of those statement wins early on in his career, after people were saying that he was boring, was Jamel Herring. That was the fight where we were like, okay, yeah, Shakur is getting busy. And we could kind of see it. And then it's just kind of been up and down since then.
One knockout since.
Yeah, as for Kid Austin, I don't think he has that much to lose here, to be honest with you, because he is really, really young. And, we're seeing here in the comments that he's probably just not ready to fight Shakur. He doesn't have as much experience as Shakur. But at the same time, I don't think he has anything to lose. In fact, if he was to beat Shakur Stevenson, that would be crazy for him.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. But
it's probably not. But I mean, you never know with boxing. Yeah. You never know with boxing. And we don't actually know what type of Shakur Stevenson we're going to get. If he's actually going to let his hands go a little bit more and take some more chances, because at one point, like Devin Haney, when you think about defensively, you could put him up there as like a great defensive fighter. But he started to take a lot more chances. I mean, we saw what happened against Ryan Garcia. He took a lot of hits against Loma, and that's kind of why I prefer Devin Haney a little bit over Shakur Stevenson in terms of entertainment, because Devin Haney is going to take the risk, but at the same time, he's going to do some beautiful boxing, and he's going to show you, some beautiful defensive boxing as well. And that's kind of why I have Devin Haney a little bit over Shakur Stevenson in terms of entertainment.
Yeah, that's why he gets clipped more too, is what Shakur Stevenson will retort with, and I kind of get it, like we saw Jorge Linares, like he took a chance there when, Shakur Stevenson probably doesn't. Like, this is a tough one. I want to ask you this about Kid Austin specifically, because I'm looking at just the guys in the lightweight division that he would be around, I guess, in terms of BoxRec rankings. BoxRec working now, so thank you for that. Who do you think would win a fight today between Kid Austin and Frank Martin?
I think Frank Martin is actually a pretty good boxer, and I think he boxed pretty well against Tank Davis, but I'm taking Kid Austin in that fight.
That's a tough one for me.
I'm taking Kid. I think I'm higher on Floyd Schofield than you are.
Chat, I would love to see some comments about that. We're gonna throw some comments up also, but do you think Floyd Schofield? This one's a no for me, actually, and maybe I'm too high on this guy. But do you think Floyd Schofield right now beats Tevin Farmer?
I think Tevin Farmer would get robbed on the cards. That's what I think. That's what I think is going to happen, because we've seen it happen. I think Tevin Farmer can go toe-to-toe with anyone in the division.
Do you think Floyd Schofield would beat, this would actually be a great fight, would beat Abdullah Mason?
I'm higher on Abdullah Mason.
Me too.
I love that kid. I love that kid. That
I want
kid
him
has
to fight
it all.
Shakur Stevenson. Shit.
Yeah, I would just put my money in Abdullah because I believe in him. That kid, I'm telling you, he's an absolute superstar. I like his career trajectory. If he keeps on going on this path, yeah, I'm picking him every time.
Let me give you a few other lightweights because I'm enjoying this. Floyd Schofield, or you're gonna say this other person, but Keyshawn Davis.
I think Floyd's really young right now, right? Like Keyshawn's more.
He's older than Abdullah Mason.
Yeah, Keyshawn's more
advanced in his development.
Yeah, like Keyshawn's that guy. You know what I mean? So right now, I'm not picking anyone against Keyshawn, but I still think Floyd has a lot to go. Like, what is Floyd? Like 22 years old? Like he's young, dude.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, this is early for this kind of opportunity. But hey,
when did Canelo fight Mayweather? He's like 23,
something like that.
Yeah.
Fernando Vargas was also really young when he fought Felix Trinidad.
Yes,
Shakur Stevenson is not Felix Trinidad stylistically at all, but like another example of a guy at his peak versus guy who can be. And Fernando Vargas still made a great career, but I mean,
one of my favorite fighters.
Lost a lot of high profile fights after that. Floyd Schofield or Andy Cruz?
I'm rolling with Andy Cruz. I'm sorry. I'm high on Andy Cruz.
Like, people are going to use this win against Shakur Stevenson if it happens. Last one.
But I think I'd pick Andy Cruz over Shakur Stevenson. Like, I think
That's
Andy Cruz.
Interesting.
I think Andy Cruz might be one of the best boxers in that division. Like, yes, you know what? If it was today, and you had Shakur Stevenson against Andy Cruz, I'm gonna rock with Andy Cruz. I put my money on Andy Cruz, and he's more entertaining.
Floyd Schofield or George Kambosos?
Wait, stop it. Stop it. Like, I'm not answering that. Like, why? Why is that even a question?
There was a rumor that Shakur could fight George Kambosos.
I saw that. I was pissed off. I was like, Shakur, don't take that fight.
You don't need to. Do you want to bet money that's the fight that happens next instead?
I bet. And Kambosos is gonna be there. I don't mind that he gets the bag, but like, stop it. Like, I can't even believe you asked me that. I will say though, who would you pick? Andy Cruz or Shakur Stevenson? That's a very tough fight.
I'm still taking Shakur right now.
Okay.
I think and Andy Cruz is almost 30. So like, but we still have to see him against he's gonna be one of these dudes that, like, by the time he's 4-0 now as a pro.
Yeah.
He'll have a title probably in a few more fights. Like he'll be fight. He already has like an international title, so he has one of the regional ones, so to speak. He's gonna fight for a world title soon, maybe even as early as the end of 2025. Like by that point, I don't know if it's gonna be against Shakur Stevenson. Should probably look up where he's ranked as we're talking
That's a
about this.
fight though that I would love to see, but I think Shakur Stevenson will move up before he fights an Andy Cruz.
Yeah, because we talked to Tiger Johnson about this. He's probably a future welterweight,
Yeah.
in the future. Now, power wise, I don't know
I,
how he'll do, but we'll see. Andy Cruz is ranked because let's remember Shakur Stevenson still WBC has the title. Andy Cruz is sixth according to the WBC. That's not nothing. Like he could actually rise up there pretty quickly. Fourth WBA, so that's Tank's title. Tank versus Andy Cruz would be a fucking banger.
I don't think Tank takes that fight.
Uh, Andy Cruz is six for the IBF. That's still Vasily Lomachenko. I wish he fought Shakur Stevenson.
I rather see that fight though. I still rather see Tank and Loma.
And we expect Baranchyk to defend against Keyshawn Davis next. So
Yes.
Let's get to some comments because we got a bunch. We're gonna start with IMPK13. I like the over 15 minutes late.
Were we 15?
25. You would have lost because we were 6 minutes late.
Yeah. I mean, we were gonna be late, but that's just because we were waiting for you guys. That's all.
Yeah,
we just like to be a little bit nice.
Yeah, we delay it for a few minutes just to let people, people come in. Jesus chimes in. Saludos, happy Tuesday night. Yes, we are here. And then Shakur sleepinson. Nobody cares. Jesus don't give a shit about anybody. Al the pal. Yeah, Shakur and Kambosos, and now he has to join Eddie Hearn.
If they put on Shakur Stevenson and George Kambosos, I'm just gonna like get my blanket and turn the heat on and like pass out. Like while I watch, like I would just pass out watching that fight. I would never get that time back in my life. You know what I mean? Like that would be brutal. Like I would want to do something productive while watching that fight. Because that fight, I'm so tired of fights with George Kambosos. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, what is the point? Like, you want to go down to Australia and get a win? Like, is that what it is? Like, Shakur he doesn't have to do that. I think Shakur can beat anybody in this division, dude.
I respect the shit out of George Kambosos. I'm not going to badmouth him, but I get it.
I'm not badmouthing him. I'm just saying,
you're tired of him getting these title shots. Listen, the George Kambosos run, like, top 1% bag getter of all time.
I love it. And it's great. He has a family. I'm happy for him. I just don't want to see it anymore.
Turn that Teofimo Lopez upset into like 4 more money fights.
I got it. I respect the hustle. I respect the hustle of what he did for that.
2 Devin Haney fights. I don't even know how I got the second one. 2 Devin Haney fights in Australia. And then the Maxi Hughes fight, which he should have lost, got the robbery win, and parlays that into a Vasily Lomachenko title shot. Like George Kambosos, top 1% bag getter of all time. Oh wait, IMPK, I put up his comment, didn't even read it. Schofield's not ready for Stevenson. Schofield versus Davis is a better fight. In my humble opinion, I agree, but I would even say like Davis is, as Shantelle was saying, a little more advanced, where Schofield is. Not because of pro fight, but like pro experience in terms of like amount of fights, but the level of competition he's fought is just better. They're moving him along faster, and he looks damn near flawless. Yeah, Schofield doesn't.
They're pushing Keyshawn at the rate that they should, and I don't think he goes back to fight a guy like Schofield, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Like he's on a path right now where he's gonna get bigger fights and bigger fights and bigger fights, and I don't think that's a big fight for him.
Not yet.
Yeah. And now, later on, when Schofield gets older,
if he beats Shakur,
well, he'll get any fight he wants, right? So,
Al the pal, Shakur's not going to get credit for Schofield. He shouldn't fight him. I kind of agree with this, but I'd rather see Schofield than Kambosos.
Oh, 100%. Please.
I'd rather see him fight Tevin Farmer than Kambosos.
Shakur?
Yes.
I don't think he wants to take that fight.
No, I know that.
I think Tevin Farmer.
They're gonna
I
be
think that's
fucking.
another robbery
They'll be
for
staring
its
at each
head.
other like this, moving their heads and shit. You know, like not
No,
gonna be a lot of punches in that fight, maybe.
I will
Although
say
Tevin
though,
Farmer will bring it to somebody, but he just won't knock him out most likely.
he will. I mean, he scored a knockdown in his last fight, right? Like that
Still
was
got robbed.
crazy.
Still got
But
robbed.
I don't think, like I said, I know a lot of people don't like the style Shakur fights, but he is arguably the best in the division. He can beat anybody. Like he's going to be the king of that division.
TJ says, "What's up?"
Thank you, TJ.
Let's see what other comments we have before we move on to the next one. Al the Pal and Hustle Man having a
Yeah,
discussion.
Al the Pal and Hustleman are going at it. Just keep it friendly, guys. That's all we ask. We like both of you. So
No, that's not the one I wanted to put up. I honestly don't know much about him, but his record showed he had power and anything could happen in the fight. I mean, it's kind of where we're at. All right, let's move on. I think we're good on Shakur Stevenson. 20 minutes on that. Jesus Christ.
yeah, and you talked about a guy like George Kambosos Jr. that ended up getting a lot of fights after he took care of Teofimo Lopez in great fashion. Teofimo Lopez is connected into this conversation because we're going to talk about the 140-pound division.
Segue.
The WBO has ordered a fight between Arnold Barboza Jr. and Jack Catterall, which would essentially be a title eliminator. And the winner would be able to fight Teofimo Lopez after. They would be the number one contender. Bryan, when you think about this fight, Arnold Barboza Jr. and Jack Catterall, right now we don't know where it's going to be. So this could potentially, again, I think there's two options. It would be in Jack Catterall's backyard because Jack Catterall sells out there.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big name there.
Mm-hmm.
Or we get it in Saudi again. Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, they'll probably it's gonna be the UK or so. Either way, Arnold Barboza's kind of screwed. We'll see. He'll be up against it, and this is gonna be a tough fight. I think one, Jack Catterall is gonna be the betting favorite, and two, I think that Arnold Barboza could really win this fight. I think Jack Catterall could too. Like this is one that's gonna be tough. I think it'll open probably like 50-50. And then Catterall will get bet up, and then late money will come in on Barboza, and Barboza will be like a slight dog going into the fight, is my general expectation, especially if this is in the UK. If this is in the UK, maybe he's slightly more than slight of an underdog.
If this is in the UK, I feel like Arnold Barboza would have to convincingly beat Jack Catterall. Like, if it was a very close fight, which I actually expect this to be a very close fight, I think it could be a majority decision or a split decision between Arnold and Jack. That's how I think it's a good fight too. Like I've never really sat up here and been like, yo, I think this Jack Catterall fight is going to be crazy. I can't wait. I'm not going to do shit that day. I'm just going to wait for this Jack Catterall fight. This is this is the fight where I'm seeing that. And obviously, I'm rocking with Arnold Barboza Jr. Come on. I would place my money on Arnold for this fight just because, well, number one.
Even if it's in the UK, you would do it?
I would be betting with my heart. Okay. And I would place it on Arnold. Like, let's be serious here.
West Side.
Yeah, he Raiders and Dodgers fan, Shout out to Arnold Sr. too, supporter. You know what I mean? I gotta rock with the Barbosas at this one. I do think that Arnold Barboza Jr. has a better chance if it is in Saudi. And if the bread is there, why not? I'm just not the biggest fan of the crowds there because I think they'd be wilding out in Jack Catterall's backyard. And, I'm not like the biggest, like, oh my God, I love fights in the UK. It looks lit. I want to see a fight in the UK. But yeah, like I would rather have it in Jack Catterall's backyard because I think the ambiance would be better than Saudi. But I think Arnold would have a better shot in Saudi. What about you, Bryan? How would you lean towards this fight? And does the location matter to you?
Yes. If it's in the UK, then I'm probably setting and forgetting Jack Catterall by decision because I think at a minimum, Arnold Barboza gets robbed or Jack Catterall like toughs out another close fight. He was looking shaky at times against Regis Prograis, and then he ended up finishing really strong. And the cards were like wide. I felt like the fight, like it was getting wide toward the end, but I don't think it was that wide the entire way. Like Regis was actually competitive and rocking Jack Catterall at times. Jack Catterall doesn't want to take a ton of chances. Arnold Barboza is very calculated as well. But when you watch the Jose Ramirez fight and when you watch some of his other like peak performances, like he'll mix it up in there a little bit. He's going to constantly move and jab and things of that nature. And Jack Catterall loves that left overhand, like loves just shooting that from distance and then just sort of like stepping back and creating that space. Like if Jack Catterall is able to get that timing down, then yeah, Arnold Barboza is going to be in trouble if he establishes that overhand left right away.
But you know what? I think Jack Catterall, he also likes to fight on the inside, and he kind of at the same time likes to be that aggressive fighter. And Arnold Barboza Jr. just fought a guy like that to Jose Ramirez.
Sure. Yeah.
And I thought Arnold actually had a great game plan. Arnold is going to use his IQ. He's going to use his footwork. He is going to mix it up. He is going to get to the body. And I think he's going to fight from a distance and at mid-range. And I think it's going to be a very interesting fight just to see if, Jack Catterall can get into a rhythm, because I think Jack Catterall is going to want to be stalking him in that ring, depending on what type of fight they want to fight. Now, Jack Catterall fought a totally different fight against Regis Prograis than I thought he would. And I thought it, bode well for him. But I think this is going to be a fight that is extremely close. If you're in the comment section, let us know who you think is going to win. Let us know where you want this fight. But Bryan, there's more to this.
Yeah. Yeah, there is.
Because the winner could possibly get Teofimo Lopez.
Mm-hmm. WBO champion.
Now, let me ask you a question. What is the more interesting fight to you? Teofimo Lopez and Arnold Barboza Jr. or Jack Catterall and Teofimo Lopez? And I think there's another angle to this too, because there's two guys in the 140-pound division that are fighting next weekend.
Yeah. And Hustle Man drops a question about that. We're going to be doing a post-fight show that's not going to be specific to one fight, because there's going to be multiple big fights that day. So it'll just be after those fights are done. We'll clear that up and like schedule it, and you guys will see. Now, the more interesting challenge for Teofimo Lopez, I mean, duh, whoever wins. But the actual answer, I would say, like, there might be more heat and shit talking in the Arnold Barboza fight.
100%, because their dads went at it.
Yeah, like in terms of just intrigue on that level. Not to say Jack Catterall and his team might not mix it up beforehand. I'm sure that they will. And Jack Catterall could be like, hey, you beat Josh Taylor. I beat him too. And I beat him twice and got robbed the first time. And beat a better version of Josh Taylor than Teofimo Lopez did, evidently, right? But I think the Arnold Barboza will provide more back and forth. I'm more curious as to like who actually gives him, like, who's more of a stylistic problem for Teofimo Lopez, because I don't think if you're Teofimo Lopez, like both of these could be a pain in the ass. One, Arnold Barboza, one thing I do worry about in this fight is like the last time we saw him against a southpaw, I think that was Sean McComb fight. He really struggled, I felt like. And Jack Catterall's a southpaw, different kind of southpaw, but a southpaw no less. And that's going to be a weird stylistic thing to deal with. But with Teofimo Lopez, if he fights Jack Catterall, that's going to be a tricky fight, because timing the southpaw, the overhand left that I mentioned, and Jack Catterall's like, he's just a weird, awkward sort of style fighter. And then with Arnold Barboza, it's going to be a lot of movement. And what do we talk about with Teofimo Lopez? Like, cutting off the ring is an issue. And Arnold Barboza, like, that dude does his homework. Did you see? We all saw the Jose Ramirez performance, and you could tell, like, my main takeaway from that fight is he watched hours and hours and hours, and that team really dissected film, had a game plan, stuck to it, and just executed it damn near perfectly.
I think stylistically for Teofimo Lopez, they're both pretty dangerous. And I haven't given Jack Catterall enough props on the mandatory, but yeah, like, he could be a tricky fighter. Right? He could be a fighter that I think a lot of people might want to avoid. Like, I don't want to fight a Jack Catterall because he could be a pest. Jack Catterall is actually a pest in the ring.
Both of them.
Yeah. But Arnold is, I feel like I really appreciate Arnold's IQ a little bit more than Jack Catterall's. Not to say that his is more than Jack Catterall, but Arnold is very tactical, right? Like the way he moves around the ring, the way he throws the jab, and the way he was using his jab against Jose Ramirez too. And I think for Teofimo Lopez, I think he has to use the jab more. I think he has to learn how to cut off the ring, but he also does have that power. Arnold doesn't have that power. He is going to break you down by the round. But I think it's really, really interesting. I would say Barboza, Teofimo Lopez, to me, is the fight that I would want to see. But I also feel like if Jack Catterall was to win and Teofimo Lopez was like, no, I'm not fighting him, because that could also happen. there's also Liam Paro and Richardson Hitchens that are going to be fighting next weekend. And I do believe the winner could get a guy like Jack Catterall, depending on who wins.
I can't wait for that fight.
It's going to be a good one.
I'm very excited for that fight.
Yeah, someone in the comments, it was actually Hustle Man, good friend of the show, Hustle Man, said, who y'all got, Liam Paro or Richardson Hitchens? Which, by the way, Brian's been talking about Richardson Hitchens on this show for like over a year now. And we've only had this show for like almost
over
2
a
years.
year.
Yeah, you've been talking about Richardson Hitchens, and you're like, yo, like, he could cause a lot of problems for some people. Who do you have in this fight?
Now, granted, he didn't look awesome in his last fight. Like, we can start there. But at the same time,
did he lose?
I mean, technically, no. But I mean, the people thought he did, and then his opponent went out there and got destroyed by Keyshawn Davis, and also was very, very, very overweight for that fight. It should be noted. So whatever happened there, happened there. I think Richardson Hitchens and Liam Paro is a great 50-50-ish fight. I think Liam Paro has moved into being a slight betting favorite. I haven't checked the odds in a little bit. I still haven't placed a bet on that fight also. I don't really know which way I'm going. It's in Puerto Rico. I don't really think there's a home field advantage for anybody there. Liam Paro has the experience there, but I mean, Richardson Hitchens is from New York. He'll have plenty of fans.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So. Is that why you're biased or what?
I mean, he's from Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Like I've known about and have interviewed him several different times. I interviewed him once when he was fighting on the Andre Berto Sean Porter undercard years ago. And he had to run out of the press conference because he had to pay the parking meter because like of where he parked his car before the press conference or whatever. And we laughed about that and shit. He was like 1-0, 2-0 at the time. Like he had just been an amateur.
So you rocking with Hitchens in this fight?
I kind of think he's being underrated now because of his last performance. And I think Liam Paro deserves a ton of credit for the way he boxed Subriel Matias's head off. But I also think like this may be a situation where Liam Paro is getting slightly more credit than he probably should. And Richardson Hitchens, conversely, is getting slightly less credit just for who he's been beforehand. That being said, I don't know how I'm betting that fight. I'm betting a decision. I'm betting somebody by decision, but I don't know how I'm betting this fight yet.
I'm rocking with Liam Paro. And I just was way too impressed at the fact that he went to Puerto Rico.
I can see that. Yeah.
And beat Subriel Matias, the boogeyman at the time.
I just don't know how he handles a counterpuncher like this.
I think he's going to just fight like Liam Paro, just tough as hell. Come forward, take shots, throw shots. Like Liam Paro is going to just try to be the aggressor in this fight. And I want to see how Richardson Hitchens, I mean, he's really good at neutralizing that. Hitchens is a great defensive fighter, but I think it could actually be a very interesting fight. I would probably take Liam Paro by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a controversial fight. Like I could see this one being a controversial fight.
I could see that.
Let's get to some more comments.
Undercard for that fight is good also, by the way. I mean, that's where it being in Puerto Rico actually makes sense. Because if you look at the main event, you're like, why is this out there? Which I don't mind. Like, I don't think you need to be from somewhere to fight there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you have to be somewhere to main event there. But it does help, like the undercard. I mean, you have Henry LeBron, who we're both high on, fighting Christopher Diaz, who was going to be a featherweight champion at some point, and Top Rank was pushing him and Redacted at the same time as like these next Puerto Rican stars, and Redacted is now in jail, and Christopher Diaz didn't quite pan out to the level that Bob Arum once hoped. So this is a redemption last chance for him, and he's got a tough one at Henry LeBron. It's a good fight though.
Yes, I definitely agree with. And drop your comments, guys. Let us know who you got for that fight. I want to get to this comment from Al the Pal. Is 140 the best division to y'all? I think that's my favorite division. I think it's one of the best. I think it's one of the most.
It's the most maddening one. That's for goddamn sure. That's what we always say when we talk about it. We're like, yo, this division's a fucking pain in the ass. But 140 is awesome. It's chaotic though.
I've been obsessed with the heavyweight division, obviously, especially now that Daniel Dubois won that fight against Anthony Joshua. Like, I still think there's so much controversy in that division. And we also have Usyk and Fury 2 coming up at the end of the year. So for me, it's like, it's hard also not to love the heavyweight division. But yeah, 140, whose division is it really? It could really be anyone's division. Like there's not one clear-cut guy other than I would probably say Teofimo Lopez if I had to pick one for me to be like the best. But even then, like you got Devin Haney there. You know what I mean? 140 is like all over the place. It's one of those divisions where we're going to find out some things. Hitchens wins by decision. Okay, that's nice. Ryan Hong, friend of the show. But our good friend Hustle Man, Liam Paro stops Hitchens between 6 and 9.
That'll be plus money for sure. 1000%. Also, speaking of heavyweights and ordered fights, the IBF, did you see this? The IBF a little while ago ordered Martin Bakole versus Efe Ajagba to see who's going to fight Daniel Dubois next.
I'm interested in seeing more Bakole.
I'm interested to see how Ajagba, have you gotten better from your learning experience that lost to Frank Sanchez, which I think was actually on one of the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder undercards, and they had like the PBC up and coming heavyweight. I don't. A lot of people are gonna just pick Bakole to just like walk through him. I'm curious to see how Efe Ajagba sort of stands. I think he's gotten a little bit better since that loss.
You know what's crazy is that Efe Ajagba, I would have thought would have been a bigger name in boxing. Like when he first was a prospect in boxing and we saw how tall he was, like he looked like an absolute monster with power.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy's going to be a problem. I think I have a tweet from like 10 years ago. This guy's going to be a problem. I'm pretty sure I can find it. I do remember tweeting this. And it's like, I'm underwhelmed because I feel like there was such high expectations for him. So I definitely want to see him against Martin Bakole. And Bakole, obviously, great performance against Jared Big Baby Anderson. And like, that's another name that I feel like is still floating around there that we're like, what's next? What's next for him? That's a good one.
Yeah. And one more thing I want to note on that. Like Ajagba, I was high on him. Then he lost to Frank Sanchez. And then going into the fight with Stephen Shaw, I thought he was going to lose. I had bet on Shaw. And Shaw had just a flop performance in that fight. And he's gone like just down ever since. And then Efe Ajagba fought the dude that kept hitting him in the nuts. I forgot his name, but like he won by disqualification. It was on ESPN. I couldn't pronounce.
That was a top rank card, wasn't it?
Yeah. I couldn't pronounce
I remember
his name,
that.
but he just could not stop just hitting him in the fucking balls. And then Efe Ajagba won by decision. And it was blatant. Like at one point, the other dude, like it looked accidental the first maybe once or twice.
Who was that? I need to know. Like.
And then after a while, like the last one, he's like, "Oh God, I'm gonna lose anyway." Fucking bang, just fucking hit him in the balls. It was terrible. Then Efe Ajagba looked really impressive against Joseph Goodall, and then Guido Vianello won a split decision. I thought he won that fight. That was slightly controversial, but that was also, I remember that being a good fight, like an entertaining fight. So, I mean, I don't think Martin Bakole is all of a sudden, like a lot of people seem to think he's like the next boogeyman. He's going to be heavyweight champion and things of that nature. I think he can give anybody problems in the heavyweight division, but I don't think he's unbeatable at all. So I'm curious to see if Efe Ajagba can actually like box his way to victory there, or is this going to be like Jared Anderson, and Jared Anderson I thought should have fought Efe Ajagba. Maybe that's something we can get at some point. I'm very, if that fight ends up happening because it was supposed to be Zhilei Zhang and Bakole first, I'd be very, very intrigued by that.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what happens. Let us know in the comments below on what you think actually the most interesting division is, how you feel about the heavyweight division, and who you actually might want to see Jared Anderson up against, or how do you think the Martin Bakole Efe Ajagba fight might go? And especially if it does go down, because I just believe it's been ordered, if I'm not mistaken, Brian.
Yeah. Order doesn't necessarily, for casual fight fans, newer listeners, like order doesn't mean it's going to happen. Like ultimately you got to make the deal.
Yeah. But you know what? Let's see what happens with Efe Ajagba, because I feel like he has to go like upwards, not that, you know what I mean? I feel like he's kind of been stagnant in terms of his career and that he should be a bigger name. So we'll see what happens with that. Drop your comments below. Also, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button because it helps the channel grow. Bryan, I think we got to move a little bit towards our next topic now, because you've been trying to talk about this for a little minute now. And
we won't spend too much time on this because we're going to wrap this up. But
I told you guys we were going to talk about a turkey.
Yeah.
So
Big Turk, y'all
yeah.
man, bought Ring magazine a couple weeks ago. We're not reporting this as news because this has already happened. But I mean, we just wanted like, what does this mean type of thing. And people aren't really talking about it like that because, you know, people are just like, oh, you know, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. He has money, whatever.
And he bought it from Oscar De La Hoya. So.
Yeah, from Golden Boy, who bought Ring in, it was either 2005 or 2007. But it was in that time. They've had it for a while, and people have noticed, like, hey, they've been favorable towards certain Golden Boy fighters over the years.
Be quiet, Bryan, because we just got a donation. Anytime we get a donation, we just shut up and go straight to your comment because that's how we rock. Thank you, Al the Pal, for donating to the mandatory. He's going to share some Starbucks moolah with us, half and half. Thank you, Al the Pal, for donating to the show tonight. But
you drink coffee? Because I don't.
I'm not like an avid coffee drinker, but if I'm like on the road traveling for work and I don't pack my pre-workout, I wake up in the morning and I just have like a black coffee before my workout, and it does the job. And that's the only time I have coffee is like if I need it, you know, as a pre-workout before I work out. So that's the only time I drink coffee. Yeah. Why are you laughing? Why is that funny to you?
Just straight black coffee. That's intense.
It's not that bad though. I like it. Like if I was to drink coffee all the time, I'd probably just drink straight black coffee.
Okay. But I've never tried it. I'm not interested.
If it's not bad. Like, I don't know. That's what I get. Because sometimes when you pack like protein powder or like pre-workout and you're traveling and you're carrying on, they always stop you. And I always get stopped at the airport anyways. You know, I always have trouble with customs and stuff like that. I don't know why. And so what? It's true. No, they always pull me to the side and like they check my hands for dust. It happens every time. And so I have to go to the airport extra early, even though I'm like traveling like every weekend for work. So yeah, anyways, that's not the point here. I forgot what we were talking about. Ring magazine.
Turk. Yeah, so this is what Turk this is what Turk said. Earlier this week, I finalized a deal to acquire 100% of Ring magazine. So I mean, he's just putting it all out there. And I want to make a few things clear. The print version of the magazine will return immediately after a 2-year hiatus. It's basically him saying, I have enough money to put this shit back in print. And it will be available in the US and UK markets. The magazine will be fully independent. I don't know if I believe that, but I'll stop editorializing. The magazine will be fully independent with brilliant writers and focusing on every aspect in the sport of boxing. We will restore the legacy of the Ring rankings to its old mechanism, just fucking telling Oscar you did this shit wrong and I'm going to correct it. With the fully independent panel.
Oscar's like smiling in the back with a bag of money.
I'm gonna get to him in a second.
Yeah.
With this old mechanism, with a fully independent panel that lives up to the Ring magazine's golden era, we will continue to raise the prestige of the Ring titles, and plans are already underway to have a yearly extravagant awards ceremony to celebrate the very best in the boxing industry. In the coming weeks, we intend to debut a brand new slate of state-of-the-art website, and mobile app, a Ring mobile app. Okay. We are already in development for a line of Ring magazine merchandise. The Ring magazine will be fully independent. He's really hammering this independent shit. This is like the third time that he said it here. Like, yo,
I don't even know what he means by that. Like, I don't know what it means in terms of like Turk. You know, because Turkey, he doesn't let anything be independent from what I've seen.
The Ring magazine will be fully independent company without any involvement from Riyadh season. In the end,
I don't know if I believe that, but I mean, if it's true, like if this is true and like he's going to revamp it, all of the stuff that he said he's going to do is pretty dope. And it sounds like he's going to give a lot of amazing, talented writers a chance to be in Ring magazine, which there will be a print version. Like, this is kind of cool, like in that sense. And I give him props for trying to bring it back.
Billionaires never fully tell the truth. In the end, this is the last thing he says. Let's get the Bible of boxing to heights that it has never seen in the past. And I just want to Oscar real quick. Oscar De La Hoya, who was the owner of Ring magazine before this, confirmed the news in a conversation with Forbes. The offer from Turki Alalshikh was an offer that I could not refuse. This was the first thing he said. He might as well have said, "Yo, he stuck me up." You know what I'm saying? Like, he just threw a bag at me, and I was like, "Fuck it," just gave it to him. It's in great hands. I strongly feel that Turki Alalshikh, because of his love of the sport, is going to continue to grow the brand and make sure that Ring Magazine continues to thrive, grow, and give the fans the best content. That just sounds like a blanket statement. Like, yo, he paid me a fuck ton of money to step aside, and I took the bag, and he can go play with Ring Magazine.
He's like, yo, Ring Magazine's in good hands. He's like, I don't even blame him for that. I don't blame him for that. But at the same time, like I said, if this is Turki's plans and like he has all of these ideas and it actually pans out, like I'm with it. All of that sounds great to me, especially because Bryan, we went to school for journalism and print has gone. Like it doesn't really exist.
Magazines barely exist, period.
Yeah.
Like, even in a digital sense. Like,
so the fact that they're going to bring it back, because I still like seeing things like in person and like
same.
holding it,
Me
right?
too.
Like I still go buy books. I hate ebooks. You'll never catch me like on a what do they call, like Kindles or some shit?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. You know what I mean? I'll never be like this on a plane. Like I like books. Like I like physical stuff. I like, you know what I mean? Like Bryan and I were talking about this about video games like a couple of weeks ago. We still like buying physical copies. Like we don't like downloading every game.
Yes.
So it's one
and
of those
trading
things,
them in to get your $15 before the next one comes out.
Yes. So we both really like that. So I like the fact that he's also going to give opportunities to, young writers. You never know, Bryan. You could be writing in Ring Magazine.
Listen,
No.
I've said this too. Like, even though like I've questioned some of the ways he's gone about things for reasons, but I would talk to the dude.
Yeah.
I would hear him out, but at the same time, like I have a level of skepticism here because just generally speaking, when billionaires promise things, they don't really tend to happen in that way usually. You know what I mean? So like I don't know. I don't know what to expect from this. I'm sure that I think he wants to do great things, but and I think a lot of people will let him because like it's boxing and people just don't seem to care about track record or whatever the case may be, and who people are, because boxing fans are just kind of like, hey, just give us the fights or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I want to see who this fully independent panel is. I have not been approached. I want to see who like what's going to make this independent and why it's not going to be tied to Riyadh season. I do feel like, we're kidding ourselves if we think that the first Ring Magazine rankings are going to come out, or the Ring Magazine's rankings, we're going to see them and like a whole bunch of dudes who have fought in Saudi Arabia aren't going to be on the rankings. Like, I'm sure they are like pretty high up, like
well, that's what I actually wanted to say, because I think that's going to be the most interesting part about it is the rankings.
Yeah.
Like, are people that are down with Riyadh season going to be higher on the rankings?
Oh, like we're like, but, and I'll shoot a little bail here. It's like, all right, like, who are the best light heavyweights in the world? Two dudes who just fought in Saudi Arabia. You know what I mean? Like,
that's fair.
Like, so I think it comes down to what IMPK is saying. Like, they're just trying to, it's buying more influence in the sport. This is how sports washing works. Like, it is. But
I want to know what that means long term, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I would love to hear him out in person, but what's he going to tell me that's different from what he's saying here?
Sorry to cut you off there, but I do want to know what this means long term. And if you're listening to this on the audio version, IMPK13, very good friend of the show, said, yes, the Saudis are trying to buy more influence in boxing, but we've seen it so far. We've seen their influence, and yeah, we are getting the big fights that we want. It's in Saudi, but we're still getting them. We had one out here in North America where Bud got to fight in LA, and we saw Eminem's performance. We saw Turk give away a car out of nowhere. Like, we saw, some award being given.
He got put in the Hall of Fame, the Nevada Hall of Fame or whatever that was.
We saw some crazy stuff. You know what I mean? And it was interesting, but long term, to be honest with you, Bryan, it looks fuzzy. Like, I don't know how it looks. Like, I don't know what's next. And I think that's kind of the scary but also exciting part about it, because we do want boxing to trend upwards. And I think there was a point in time where people were saying boxing was dead. It was never dead because it was always making money. But I think the way and I'm always going to say this, and this is a different conversation, until it's a little bit more easy to follow, because there's so many sanctioning bodies, there's so many belts. It's so hard to keep up with if you're a casual fan. It is. Like, I'm like explaining to people about, the super belt. Like, when
Yeah.
someone's like, "So what does that mean? What does that mean?" And I was like, "Oh, I have to explain this now." Like, it's confusing to people. And I think, like, that's why I think the UFC is successful in a sense, because it's easier to follow.
Well, I have other theories about why it's successful, but I've already.
Well, yeah, you know what I'm saying here. I'm just saying, but like for casual people, there's
But
not
yes,
like a
one title
WBO,
every
a
weight class.
WBA.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just one organization. It's one title every weight class. Yada yada yada. Like, and with Turk and the Saudis, like
there was
what?
talks of that too. Remember?
Yeah,
There were talks of everything being under one banner, and the Saudis and Turk were the ones trying to make that happen, and everyone's like, "Oh, this would be dope. Like, what would that look like?" And I'm curious to know if we do end up getting that in like 5 years, maybe
yeah,
sooner.
or shoot, yeah, because Top Rank is not like I don't know how much money Top Rank is making, but it doesn't feel like they're spending a ton. You know what I mean? It feels like
Yeah.
they're playing it safe in some ways, and they had a stranglehold on 140. We've talked about this. They've had a stranglehold on 140, and then they just kind of let guys go. Like Jose Ramirez gone, Arnold Barboza gone, Teofimo Lopez. We don't know what's going on with his situation. Shakur Stevenson is a free agent now. They had a deal with Devin Haney, gone. Like and
Hmm.
apparently George Kambosos could just like do whatever at this point. Like, not to throw him in there, but like this is kind of what it is. And then PBC is barely putting on cards. The cards that they put on are good and they're interesting, but they're barely putting them on when like years
So
ago, PBC
weird.
was like PBC was they were the most active out of everybody, damn near.
Yeah. I
Right?
really did like their deal with Fox too.
Me too. I
I
missed
thought
that.
that was dope.
When
Yeah.
PBC came and Spike, Bounce, NBC, Fox,
Yeah.
there may have been a PBC on CBS. There was actually, there was. And that's just kind of where we were. And then Golden Boy is not like super active, but that's been a thing for years. And they just had Latino night on a Saturday afternoon in Saudi Arabia. So like Oscar De La Hoya is like he's just trying to also work with the Saudis more because like money. um yeah, like they have the money right now, so people are trying to do things through them and work through them. But I wonder what this is going to look like in a few years, because like
Yeah.
I've always questioned like the sustainability of this, because when there's a lot of money coming to the table, like the money always dries up at some point when the money is just coming in out of fucking nowhere. Like Triller flamed out. Now there's a different business, but like Triller, like that shit came and went. uh BLK Prime, that shit came and went.
I don't even think that came really quick. Like, it was just there and it was gone. I'd
you
never heard of it
know
again.
Yeah,
I
like I
it's
don't know. I don't know. I have a lot of questions about this. And IMPK also has one too that he wanted to throw in here. Could the Saudis, and I don't know if we like how well we're gonna answer this, but we can try. Could the Saudis get to the point where they control boxing like Dana White runs the MMA? I mean, I would like to say no,
but if
but
they were trying to buy out Top Rank, and they were trying to buy out PBC, if they're trying to do those things, and yeah, there's a possibility, but how much are those entities going to cost?
I don't know if PBC would do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like,
You never know. Like, enough money will, everyone has a price.
price, yeah. Bob Arum
Every-
is like 90 something.
yeah.
What does he give a
And
shit?
man, like, bought, like, yeah, he is up
He
there
can
in age,
cash
which
out, like
I love that, because Bob still talks smack too.
he
You
does.
know what I mean?
But he
And
hella entertaining ass interview.
yeah,
Still.
he's great. So, to I just think it's interesting, and I don't know how it's going to look. But if it does get under one banner, I do think it could be a little bit easier to follow for casual fans. Not to saying that I want that, but maybe that would also help us get the fights that we want to get. And the Saudis are getting us fights. Like, Turk is getting us the fights that we want to see.
Yeah,
But I didn't like Latino night in Saudi. Like, maybe the
that was
Saudis
stupid.
can have Riyadh season, but have it in the States, like have it in
Yeah,
Vegas, or something
but
along the lines
they're
of that.
trying to drive tourism to Saudi Arabia. You know, like they're trying to get people to vacation out there also, like and promote like this is part of the whole thing is like promoting what they have in Saudi Arabia. Even when you peek behind the curtain a little bit, it may not be something that you're necessarily down with. You know?
Yeah, like I think if I wasn't a boxing fan, I don't know how safe I would feel as a woman, like
Yeah,
traveling there, like just being honest,
yeah.
right? And so there's those aspects of it too that I think like don't even get talked about.
Hmm.
And so it'll be interesting to see what boxing does because I think there's a lot of politics that have to go into it as well. And I know this is not a political podcast. It's getting late. I can't even talk. But I think what's going on with the world right now is interesting too.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Oh,
we could potentially be gearing up to go into World War III.
I hope not, but
No, but that's it could potentially
but I
happen with
mean,
things
listen.
happening. Like not to be negative here, you guys, but
Yeah,
this has been
yeah,
something that's been brewing for like years now.
yeah.
And we're getting to a point where they're passing bills where young men and women can get drafted. Like if that's not foreshadowing, I don't know what is. Like
I won't follow you down this rabbit hole only because, like, if I do it, we'll be here
we're
another
here
hour.
yeah, and we
Yeah,
we already said
because
we were only going to
you
be
know
here
how
for a
I
bit.
get. You know how I get the fucking stupid shit that we be doing in this country. But yeah, I mean, this is where boxing sort of is right now, and I'd be curious to see what happens with Ray Magazine if it makes like a big cultural impact on the sport, or if people just like kind of ignore it and the rankings or the rankings because boxing rankings, like, how much do they actually matter at the end of the day? But I mean, we'll see.
Whoa, how did we get down that rabbit hole? Yeah, we're talking about Rig Magazine, but like,
Well,
I'm happy it's going to be back in print, and I'm happy Turk is saying, "Yo, we're going to get some like great writers on there. We might see Bryan on there one day. We don't know, maybe." And I think there's potential for it. I'm as soon as it comes out in a physical copy, I think I'm going to go and cop it.
yeah, everybody's got a price. Mine ain't low though. I'll tell you that right now.
Mine's not either. I just want to be safe. Let's get to some final comments before we get out of here. I got a price too. I just want to be safe. You know what I mean? I would also go there and buy gold because I heard if you buy like, yeah, I would buy jewelry down there. I heard like that's where you buy jewelry. Like everyone goes, in Saudi to buy jewelry. Like I would buy a bunch of chains there and stuff. I would.
I think they're
You know?
hosting the FIBA Asia Cup next year too. Like they're
Oh,
just really trying to get like a lot of events and increase tourism and make money and more
I'm
money and
telling
things of
you, if
that
you go
nature.
down there buy jewelry, that's what I would do. It's
And,
like
and
cheaper
look, pardon if
and
I
good
sound
quality. Good quality.
pardon if I sound like a dick, but like it just kind of is. I'm just saying how it is for
They
the
have
most
good
part.
quality gold down there. I understand it's a little bit. It's better. It's cheaper than up here.
Yeah.
Al the Pal. It was better with Paramount Plus. Now I pay for Amazon Prime just to wait for PBC fights.
I recommend a really good documentary on Amazon Prime actually that I saw recently that was about Ronald Reagan. And when you watch it with 2024 eyes, you can see the links between him and a certain somebody and how we got to where we've gotten to in America.
Also, musically, if you want to listen to a good song, there's a song by Kendrick called Ronald Reagan Era. Great song.
Oh,
Anytime
that's my favorite
classic,
Kendrick
Section 80.
album. That's still my
Yeah.
favorite Kendrick album.
Al the
Although
Pal.
this new one is
I think it
making a
might be
run.
I think it might be number 2 for me on his catalog.
It's getting there.
All right, Al the Pal. DAZN a lot. I have DAZN too. Al the Pal. ESPN Plus with Top Rank. I get my money worth. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people don't have DAZN though. But Al the Pal, Bob been down to sell Top Rank. It's true. He probably has
I don't know if
been.
it is, but maybe I would.
Top Rank's
Look,
my favorite.
if
Just
I'm
gotta say.
92, yeah, I'm trying to cash out and give some money to my kids before I croak. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think Bob has all the money in the world though.
Yeah, he's been promoting since the 60s, 70s, before the 70s, I think. So,
Yeah, that's
I mean,
true. It's crazy. Anyways, well, that was the show tonight.
yet another show where we're like, we can't do another hour, and we do another
We
hour.
do another. We weren't supposed to. By the way, guys, if you are celebrating
We love you guys.
Thanksgiving, yes, thanks for rocking with us. By the way, too, and remember, hit that like and subscribe button. Helps the channel grow. Share with your friends. If you're watching this a couple of days later, thank you. By the way, if you are celebrating Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We are grateful for you guys joining the show, leaving comments, hanging out with us, doing the
Yes.
post-fight shows. Thank you
Yes.
so much. You guys make the show. And we hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Brian, I'll let you have the final thought since I can no longer talk.
We will be back next week, and we don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but we'll be back next week.